Good morning, everybody. This is Karen. I'm seeing so many posts of people having problems and tearing their hair out and everything, and I want to make that easier for you. So, Shauna, I see that you have two main things that you're talking about in your post this morning, so I'm going to go over those. And whoever is out there and needs me to do something specific, let me know. One thing I can say is start with something small. Don't try to do everything. Forget that it's going to alienate you. This is something that is really going to make things fun for you. It's going to get easier. I promise, I promise. Don't send it back. You'll be so sorry because at some point it will just get easy and then it won't be a big problem anymore. So as far as removing lines, let me start up Silhouette. Removing lines, setting lines and stuff like that. So it's going to take for a second for it to start up. Now I'm working on a Mac, but I mean all of this is going to be the same on a PC. So let's say you have an image. I'm going to start off with, I guess, one of my files. Let's see what's in here. Sorry, I should have chosen something first. I want to choose something that's a little bit complicated and that can help you also learn a couple of tricks. Let's say, I think I'm going to choose this one right up here. So it's got all kinds of stuff to it. Now when I open it, it's a single file, or I should say everything is joined together. Okay, when you select it and move it around, everything moves at the same time. So if you want to do anything to this image, for example, if you wanted to remove some of these dots, whatever, or remove lines or add lines or whatever, the first thing you're going to need to do is ungroup it. And to do that, first you select it and then you right click and you're going to ungroup. Now you see that it's got all kinds of gray rectangles around all the individual pieces. That means that it's been ungrouped. So when you click away from it, all that confusion goes away. And then you can click the individual items and do whatever you want with them. You can move them out of the way. You can change the size by dragging the handles. I mean, I'm being ridiculous now, but I'm just showing you all the different things you can do. Okay, here's something. You can take one of these lines away. If you like this better than this, you can delete this by pressing the delete button and copy this by selecting and then right clicking, press copy and then press paste and then move the new one over to there. You hover your mouse cursor over this green thing and it changes to a circle with an arrow on it. That means that it lets you rotate it. So you just grab that and turn it, let it go, and then move it into position where you want it. So now you've decided, oh my goodness, I've made a mess of everything. I don't want anything of what I've done. So all you do is you click the undo button until you get back to where you were. So it's going to take a few times. I don't know how many levels of undo there are. I could check that out, but I'm just showing you there. Everything is back exactly the way it was. So don't be afraid to go in there and play around and try things. You can always undo it. And if that doesn't work, if it's a file that was in your library, no problem. Just open it again and you'll be back to square one. So once you've made changes that you like, save the file. If you think that you'll be wanting to use it again later. And even if you don't think, you never know, because you make all kinds of changes, it takes time, and going back and doing it again never works out exactly the same way. So there's nothing wrong with saving a file for whatever reason. Okay, so that's one thing. That's just ungrouping things, moving things around, using the undo button. Now then, the other thing that you'll want to know about is your cut lines, all those red lines. To see what will cut, and that's especially true if you're buying SVG files, because when you open an SVG file in Silhouette Studio, it won't have the cut lines defined as cut lines. It'll show on your screen like this, but nothing will cut. What you need to do then is you need to click this icon over here. It's the cut style window, and it's a red line with a pair of scissors cutting across it. Once you click this, you'll see that the lines just got darker red. I'm going to go back to this and you'll see the difference, and I'll go back to this again and you'll see. Everything with a dark red is a cut line. It's defined as a cut line, and if I select it over here, you're going to see over here that it says cut. If I don't want this part of it to cut, I just change it to no cut. And you see now it's much lighter. Now when you go back to this view, it still looks the same, which is what I mean that when you buy an SVG file, it looks okay to you on the screen. It's only when you click the cut style window that you're going to see which lines are going to cut and which are not. And you can select multiple things. To select multiple things, first click on your first image, then hold the shift key down and select the next image you want to select. So now I'm going to make all of those not cut. And again, you see, they went to a lighter red here. And if I go back and choose cut, they're going to go back to darker. Another thing you can do, I'm going to do it on this one because I guess it'll show more. I can choose a perforated edge. So that's going to cut a perforated edge, or perforate total. And where is that going to make a difference? In this image, it's not going to make a difference. But there are some times when you only have an outer edge, which is when you want, let's say, I think if I choose all of this, no, if I group it probably. Just a second, I'm going to go back and do that. So just pretend all of this isn't happening for right now. I'm not sure about this anyway. I think that once it's grouped, if I choose perforate edge, right, it will do just the outer edge and nothing else is cutting then. If I want to do a normal cut line around only the outside, I choose cut edge. And if I want to cut everything that's in my image, then I choose cut. And it does all of the inner lines as well. So I hope that explains this part of it to you. I'm going to go back to this, and I'm going to get rid of this image because I'm not going to need it for the next thing I'm going to show you. Now it's to talk about resizing things. I'm going to explain two things. I'm going to explain resizing just any old shape. Oh, one other thing I'm going to explain as we do this. I've clicked the rectangle button, and people are having problems with clicking those shape icons and then continuing afterwards. Okay, so I've clicked it. I'm going to draw my box. Now it's continued to be, my cursor will always draw a rectangle until I change that. And the way I change that is I have to click the select icon, the arrow icon, which is your select button. And now you can select things instead of drawing things. Again, if I click the ellipse tool, I'm drawing, and I keep drawing them until I change that. Now I can select them, I can resize them, do whatever. Another trick is, whatever you choose here, if you hold down the shift button, now it's going to draw me a perfect square. If I'm drawing an ellipse, when I hold down the shift button, it draws a perfect circle. Same thing with this rounded rectangle. Holding down the shift button draws a rounded perfect square. I believe if I hold down the shift button when I choose the line icon, it draws it draws a perfectly straight horizontal line. Okay, I'm moving down here, but my line is perfectly straight. Nothing is going to change that. Okay, and if I have this selected and I don't hold the shift button, then my line can be wherever I want it. Okay, I can draw a diagonal line at any angle, whatever. It will be a straight line, but it won't be perfectly horizontal. And again, now to do other things, I need to click this arrow button, which is the select button. So now I've selected this, I'm deleting it. I'm just pressing the delete button. on my keyboard to delete these shapes. And I'm just going to keep one shape. And if you wanted to delete a bunch of things, just draw a box around them. And this line over here. So I'm going to work with this square now. To resize my square, I can simply drag my handles like this, play around with this and you'll see how it works. If you drag this handle over here, it's going to drag your thing sideways. The corners will drag them proportionally. If you drag this button down here, or handle I should say, it's going to drag it down. And you can do sideways, up and down, whatever you like. And move it around, so you need to move something. This is another thing I'm thinking as I go. As long as your cursor is in the shape of an arrow, it's not doing anything. It has nothing selected. It won't be able to move your shape. To be able to move your shape, move it close to a line, and once it turns into a hand, you'll be able to click your button, your mouse button, and drag it wherever you want it. Same is true for these sizing handles. When it's an arrow like this, you're just moving around, you're not doing anything. But as you move it over the sizing handle, see how it changes shape? And now the line has two arrows at the end. That means now you can drag it and do stuff with it. Here again is your rotate button. If I choose this, to choose it, what I did is I clicked my mouse button, my left mouse button, and I'm just moving it around to get it the way I want it. So that's just about selecting things, drawing things, resizing things. So now we're going to get into resizing something to fit on a card. So I'm going to go into my library and choose a card. To search for a card, I'm just going to type the word card up here, and it's going to display everything that's defined as a card. I'm going to choose, let's see, something simple. Okay, I'm going to choose this. Okay, that doesn't look very simple at all, so I'm not going to use this for now. It's simple enough for me, but I don't want to confuse you. Let's find something simpler than that. I'm going to choose this. Okay, so it's got some holes in here that will cut to give you a pattern on the front of your card and a card. Now, this is, again, all together. For me to be able to do anything with this image, I need to right-click and ungroup. Sometimes you also need to release the compound path. See, if I choose this, it's still all together. That's after I have ungrouped. And the reason for that, oh, I see, except for this perforated line. See, this is not in the right place. It should be in the middle. So to get that back to the right place, I just click undo. To get rid of these holes, I need to release the compound path. And I'm going to show you what the compound path does as well. Right now, the shape has a compound path defined. So with it selected, I'm going to click my fill color window. And by the way, watch this video to the end if you like to get some ideas. And of course, you're not going to remember anything once you're finished watching the video. So just keep watching it. Watch it again and again and stop and pause and try things and write down notes, whatever. This video will be here and you'll be able to watch it anytime you like. So now I'm going to choose a color to fill my shape. And I'm going to choose red, and you're going to see all the little holes are going to stay white. And that's because of the compound path. Now I'm going to go back to no color by clicking this button, and I'm going to choose all of my shape, right click, and I'm going to release the compound path. Now I'm going to take the shape again, and what's going to happen when I fill it with color, everything will be filled with color, including these holes. No, you don't even see the holes. Okay, so what you need to do, see, there are the holes. You can see that they're defined, and what I would have to do is put this shape to the back for them to show through. So if I send it to the back, maybe again, I'm going to, okay, so not exactly. Anyway, the shapes are there. It's not that they've disappeared. It's because there's no compound path defined. So now if I right click and I make a compound path, now you see the holes are there. And that's all there is to compound path. That's all it is. it makes it so that you see the holes through the design. Now, even if you don't have compound path defined, I'm going to undo it again. I'm going to release the compound path. I'm going to take the color out so you can see everything. And now you see that they're red. Oh, I know why they weren't showing. I'm going to show you why. It's because my lines are red. I'm going to change the color of my lines to black. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to fill my shape with color, red, and now you see my lines are showing through. It's because the lines were defined as red. Okay, so going back to what I was saying, that the only thing that compound path does is display the holes for you. It becomes important in other things. That's a more advanced thing. I'll talk about it later. But as far as cutting a shape, you don't need the compound path defined on this, because when you look at your cut style window, I'm gonna remove that color from here because it doesn't show very well now for what I want to show you. When you look at your cut lines, you have cut lines around those circles. So let's say you put a piece of red paper on your mat and you want to cut out this shape. You will get those holes cut, and they will cut in your paper so that, you know, there will be a hole there. But for you to see them on screen, you need to have a compound path. The only way that you're not going to have these shapes cut is if you release the compound path and then you remove all of these, or you set them as no cut. Then they won't cut. Okay, so now, because we're not going to be doing this exact shape for the video, I'm going to take all of these out of here. And now I just have a plain card to work with. I'm going to go back a few steps because maybe that was a little bit confusing. I'm going to go back to just having a plain card. Okay, I have the plain card here. And I believe, yes, the compound path is there. Sometimes you're going to see that you ungroup a shape, but still it's all in one. I'm going to get out of this window. How am I in there? Okay. You will have ungrouped it, but it's still all moving as one, and you're not able to get rid of these. That's because you need to release the compound path. Once you've done that as well, so sometimes, I'm going to undo to put that back. Sometimes you need to click ungroup a couple of times to actually ungroup something. And if even after clicking ungroup a couple of times, it isn't ungrouped, it's because you also need to release the compound path. It's just that some designs are have more definition to them. So now that I've done that, I'm going to get rid of all of these little lines in here. And I'm just going to draw a box around them and press the delete button on my keyboard. So now I'm left with a card. To resize this so that it will fit the way you want, because this has a perforation in it, right? It's a whole piece of paper that you'll score and fold to make a card. And I guess this is a 4 by 4. No, it's not. It's a 5.5 by 5.5 square card. Let's say you wanted to change this to be a standard card size, and I have to think now. It's 4.25 by 5.5, right? Right. Because you would take an 8.5 sheet of paper and cut it in half. So what I would want then is I would want one edge to be 11 inches, and I would want this to be 4.25. So I can drag this down here until I can see 4.25. I'm going very carefully here. On this side over here, I'm going to group. Now, you see what happened though? My line is too long. So I'm going to undo. And this is what happens all the time when I design. I forget things. So I undo until I get to where I need to be. This line is going to end up too long. So I'm going to group everything before I start changing my size. I'll group it so that now when I choose this sizing handle and drag it down, all of it resizes, not only my card. So I'm going to go back to 4.25. And now I have a card that is 11 inches long and 4.25 inches wide. And the way that you would see this is it would be like this. Whoops, not very straight. I could display my grid lines to make it straighter. In fact, I'll do that now so you know how to do it. If you want to display grid lines, just click this icon in the very far right top corner of your window and click Show Grid. And you can define it many different ways, but I'm just going to leave it like that for now. I often keep it out of the way because I don't need to see it. But now to see if my shape is straight, it's good to see the grid lines. So I can just undo that now. So that's resizing your card a certain way, and you can drag your handles to do that. Now another thing you can do, I'm going to go back. Excuse me. Oh, one more step. Or two. Okay, so this is, I'm back to where I was. If I want to resize this another way, I can just use the dimension tool, which I think is this one, the scale window. And this lets me define an exact size. And I can lock the aspect ratio if I want or not. So in this case, I want 11 by 4.25. So all I do is type in 4.25, click Apply, and it's done. Then another thing is, let's say I want to take a shape and size it to fit the front of my card. So I'm going to turn this around so that I can see it this way, the way that I will be cutting my card. And again, it's not exactly straight. Okay, so I'm going to choose another shape, and this is what I want to put on the front of my card. I want to cut, let's see, I'm going to choose something that's rectangular. Just going to make it a little bit easier on myself. Okay, I want to use this as the front of my card. So now it comes in over top of what I had, and if it moves everything, just click away from your shape and choose again. So here we go. Oh, by the way, another thing I wanted to say is, how do you show these dimension indicators on your shapes? And that's going to be in your preferences. Under display. Now, where is it? Or is it here? It may not be here. General? Nope. Measurements. There we go. You can have dimensions on or off. I always keep those on, personally. It's just a personal preference. Now, again, this shape comes in, everything is selected. That's because everything is grouped. And it's going to have a compound path as well because of these things. So I'm going to ungroup this, and then I'll probably have to, no, I don't need to ungroup further. I'll just delete the ones I don't want. And I'll take this one and I'm going to rotate it. Now another thing you can do to rotate, if you want an exact rotation, click the rotate icon up here and click the degrees you want, and it does it for you nice and straight. So now this is not the right size for my card front. So I have my card front, I have in the dimensions that I'm going to need it. It's going to cut the size I want, and I just take this, bring it over my window, and then drag it until it fits. And I've got my middle line up here, and then all I do is drag this side until it fits the way I want, and there you go. Now I know that's going to fit on my card front. So you would be able to cut this out in another piece of cardstock, and this, or just, you don't have to cut this with your silhouette because, you know, you can just use your trimmer to cut a card base. But you know that this will fit on your card front because you've measured it over here. And then all you do is you just attach it to your card when you're done. So those are the things you asked me for, and I hope this has been helpful. Please subscribe to my channel. I haven't been doing any videos for a little while because I've been very busy with work and other things, but I plan to start back up again, and I love to do videos that are helpful. So if you have something specific you need, please ask. Thanks so much for watching, and please click the subscribe button.